What's up, guys? It's Nico with Everything Gaming with another gameplay video with you guys. I got on the left, I got Josh playing some Royal Paladins. On the right, I have Rick playing Genesis. And I'm just sorry if I sound a little sick today, but my nose is a little stuffed up. I think I'm getting sick, so I'm sorry if I sound a little congested. Ugh. Now, this is a really long game. From the time of the video, you might think it's a match, but it's actually only one game. I wasn't actually watching the whole time, but I was like looking back and forth while playing my own game. This does go on for quite some time, and I am surprised that Rick on the right playing Genesis is able to survive anywhere near as long as he does. I'm pretty sure he does get a lot of triggers that make that happen. But here we're just waiting for them to finish shuffling up. Um, I think they've already mulliganed and drawn and whatnot. Especially with how powerful new Royal Paladins is, I am surprised how long that this game goes on for. Because if you haven't played against new Royals, they're very scary. They basically do everything, and there's not a lot of counterplay against them. Uh, so he rides his one, he draws. He rides his Knight of Friendship and draws. Those cards are incredibly powerful. He no guards it, and Josh hits a draw. And these perfect guards are incredibly useful in the Genesis matchup, because once they start getting everything 10,000 in a crit, it does get kind of scary. Now he calls the archer guy. What he does is at the end of the battle, he'll slide in a soul, and he soul charges one, and I think lets Rick draw. So what the purpose of this is to you want to stack your soul up, and you want to try to hit a trigger so you can activate Himiko's effect. Sorry, guys. Because if you don't see Himiko, you're gonna be in a really bad spot. So Josh gets his ideal ride here with Blaster Blade. We see a Knight of Friendship calling the other one. This is incredibly useful because it's so much value. You oh does he not? I guess he doesn't counterblast for the grade 1, but normally what happens is it lets you draw. Okay, so he wants to counterblast for Akane. Okay, this makes more sense. So normally what happens is the grade 2 calls the grade 1 from your hand, the grade 2 lets you draw, and the grade 1 calls another grade 2. So you're breaking even on advantage and getting a lot of stuff. Here I tell Josh to switch the side that he plays on so we can see his damage zone. But the scariest thing, and then he soul charges for Pongo. I believe it is not a trigger. But the scariest thing with Royal Paladin right now is there's Rick's taking the 2 damage attack. Okay, see it excellent. But there's very little counterplay against this deck, so you can't really. You just have to rush their Vanguard, which is not really that great, considering they gain so much advantage because they either call their cards for free, or whenever they do call them, they're getting extra cards or drawing, so they're at least breaking even on calling cards. So hitting their rear guards is just not optimal. We see Rick getting pretty lucky with triggers here, staying away from going to 4, which is always a good thing. Um, but yeah, so you can't attack their rear guards because you attack their rear guards and they just call new ones. So you just have to rush the Vanguard. And especially if they sit on Monarch Sanctuary, they're very hard to take down. So you see Rick riding to 3. Sadly, it's not Himiko, but he does get the Goddess of the Milky Way, I think her name is. Something like that. And that lets him check the top 3, put 1 into his soul, and put the other 2 back his whichever way he likes. So he gets to stack his deck a bit there. Really solid card. But it didn't look like he found the trigger he wanted, because he does want to see a trigger to get an assault for Himiko. And he calls the grade 2, reducing his next soul charge by soul blast by 2. And then this card allows him to draw 2 cards and then put 1 card into his soul. So he puts a critical trigger. So he now has a trigger for Himiko. And now she gains plus 15 attack because she gains the power for the shield of the unit. So that's a really solid card. Rick's deciding his next move here. He's really, really in a bad spot right now. The longer he goes without seeing Himiko, the worse the game gets for him. Because he doesn't really have a ton of ways to draw. He doesn't have a ton of ways to really attack offensively. Because even if he sees more Goddess of the Milky Way, he's not getting any new force markers. So that card's effect is kind of the same as the grade 2, but she gains double the power or the shield. So she gains plus 30 right now. And Rick is lucky enough to hit a second heal trigger. Definitely going to keep him in the game a couple turns longer now. Swings with his Goddess for 23 into a rear guard. Didn't really matter what he attacked there. Because he attacks a rear guard. Josh is obviously going to let die. He attacks his Vanguard. Josh is going to intercept. Josh takes another damage. It's another trigger, which kind of sucks because it doesn't really help him at all. But at this point, he just wants the counter blasts because he wants to rebuild his board. And he does get the right out for it, which is getting him that free blaster blade. This deck can call such a high amount of rear guards. It's pretty ridiculous. And the fact that it's getting even more support so soon. It has another extra booster announced with coming out in just a couple months. So it's a very scary. Yeah, the fact that it's getting even newer support so soon is pretty insane. I don't really know what they're thinking when it comes to this. So Josh just goes ahead and he's attacking. I think Rick is deciding whether or not to take another damage. He ends up doing it anyways. Not seeing any triggers, but he does lose a Himiko. And he really does need those Himikos. And that's really setting him back there. So you can see he does have a fair amount of cards in hand. He did get a couple draw effects off, and he hasn't really been blocking too much. He's just been eating the hits, and thankfully Josh hasn't been seeing any criticals. I don't know why Rick's checking this all here. I guess he's seeing if he can get the excavated. Is she once per turn? I actually did not know that card was once per turn. I'm actually gonna look this up because I know Rick's a little new to this deck, so he hasn't been playing it too much. Yeah, no, it's act whenever. I didn't know that. So he goes ahead and he uses Frog Witch. So what that does is that allows him to. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, I don't know what that was. A little frame rate drop or something. But that makes Josh replace his own rear guards with cards off the top of his deck. So that's actually not too bad against him, considering that he did have a solid board, and now he has a chance of just calling triggers and whatnot, and they don't get to activate. But we actually see here Josh doesn't see any triggers, which is always a scary thing with using Witch of Frogs, because now Rick has not only wasted a counterblast or a soul charge or whatever the activation cost of that card is, but he has now taken 4 non-triggers out of his opponent's deck, which means Josh is far more likely to hit a trigger now. Which is statistically what's gonna happen is you're only gonna hit 1 to 2 triggers and take out a majority of normal units. It's more so to try to hope you just disrupt your opponent's deck or whatnot. Maybe pull some 3s out so they can't ride again, or maybe have them put 2s in the back row or something like that. I know people before the deck came out were speculating on using it as a win condition. So you would save all 4 till you can activate them, and hope your opponent had a full board and mill them for 20 cards. You see Rick go and activate the effect again, because deck out rules in Vanguard are pretty harsh. So if you the second you lose all your cards in deck, you lose the game. So I know other games like Pokemon, you have, I think, to the end of the turn or till the next time you draw for your turn to get a card back in deck, but no, not Vanguard. Vanguard runs you dry immediately. So see him hit 2 triggers, but he's 2 for 7 or 2 for 9 right now on making his opponent draw triggers, or call triggers. Hitting another draw trigger, I believe. So he definitely has a good amount of perfect cards for later in this game. Now this is I believe this is 34. Yeah, it's sitting on a force markup, so he's just attacking for 34. Josh opts to take it again, hitting another heal. Josh has plenty of cards in hand, but I think he's just holding them for the Himiko turn at this point, which might not be the correct play at this point, because you just kind of assume your opponent's not going to get it anymore, really. But I guess he really does need those counterblasts, especially after Rick ripping apart the board like this. He gets to ride the Monarch Sanctuary. That perfect guard that Rick has is going to come in handy. And I think Josh takes the top card of his deck here and uses it as a force marker. Yeah, I think they were talking about this. He like soul charged it thinking it was a force marker. But he does get his Monarch Sanctuary Alfred. This card's pretty insane. It gets him a Blaster Blade back from his drop zone when you ride it. So you don't have to worry about running out of Blaster Blades anymore. And it also gives all your Blaster Blades in hand and on field plus 10,000 attack and plus 5k shield. So alone they're 20k attackers, which is pretty good. They're always going to be on a marker, so they're going to be at least 30. And they're all 10k interceptors and blockers from hand. So it's giving you like 5 to 10 extra shield, which is pretty damn good. And since he does have another Alfred install, he is getting +1 crit on this attack. So Rick is pretty much forced to block it, even though he is only at 4 damage. So Josh goes and retires his entire front row here, calling out 2 Blaster Blades. I guess Josh is checking to see if he still has the Blaster Blade in there, because he does still have the Expeculate. Goes ahead and swings right into that perfect guard we know Rick had. Yeah, perfect guards are instrumental in beating Royals right now. With their extra crits, and they get pretty big really fast, so they are quite hard to deal with early. Really at all stages in the game. They have an excellent rush, and their end game is pretty fantastic. Definitely what I think is going to be the best deck of this format coming up. Very scary to play against. Rex still deciding what to pitch off his perfect guard here, but he gets rid of the grade 2. We see a Soul Savior and another Knight of Friendship. Soul Savior is actually not that bad here. A good way to break through Rick's hand, because he's definitely has a lot more pressure to have to block everything. But because those columns are going to be absolutely massive after he uses Soul Savior's effect. But the question is that he just might not have enough. He might not have enough in Soul to still use Soul Savior and keep Blaster Blade. But that isn't too big of a problem, because he can use one from hand, so he doesn't lose with Expeculate. Rick calling, I think this is his second or third Goddess of the Milky Way. Seeing what to pull off the top here. It's such a scary card. Your opponent getting to stack their deck like that makes blocking a really scary. Because you kind of assume they either hit two triggers or no triggers, which is a weird thing. Still deciding. I think he's deciding whether or not he wants to put a trigger in solo for Himiko, or if he wants to just put a normal unit and then, yeah, you can see him go ahead and put a normal unit. And I think he has a crit and another grade 2 on top. So he may have a way to draw the grade 2. I'm not sure. He goes ahead and he reduces the cost of his next Soul Blast again. Giving +3 over there. I'm not quite sure why he doesn't put it on the grade 2. He can choose any unit to give +2. Well, that might be why right there. So he's gonna draw into the trigger and the there he goes. Draws in the trigger, the other grade 2, and he does use the effect to put the trigger in soul, giving his unit gets +15. It's only 24 though, because it is base 9 for whatever reason. I don't really think that changes much. Now, since he's out of counterblast, he swaps the grade 2 for just a booster, knowing that if he doesn't win this turn, he's probably pretty boned. I'm not quite sure what did he Soul Blast or something? Oh, yeah, okay. He Soul Blasts for her effect, getting a fat +40, which is a lot from Soul Blasting the heal. Or I think it's triple or double. Either way, it's a huge column. Josh, thankfully having the perfect guard, getting rid of the Expeculate, and Rick healing for the third time here, which is probably how this game ended up going so long. Because Rick is he's down to what seems like only a couple cards in hand. Not entirely sure how many. Let me see any of the Goddess of the Milky Way. Oh, almost was a little confused there. He almost forgets the boost on that one. Josh hitting a Monarch Sanctuary on his damage check, which kind of sucks. Probably really would have liked to see that. And Rick attacking for 30. What is that? 34. And Josh perfect guarding again, discarding another Expeculate. Now Josh does still have the Soul Savior, which I don't think he discarded on his oh no, I think he discarded that instead of the Expeculate. Now this turn gets so hard for Rick to block because I don't know if a lot of people know this or not, but when you call the Blaster Blade out of your soul to ride, he actually gets ridden standing, so you do get another attack in. So you see Josh saving the booster because this attack is already pretty massive, and Rick is losing his board on this because it does attack all his units at once. He can't even intercept. Such a strong effect too. I don't. Oh, okay. Thought he might have been blocking that too for a second. And he just decides to no guard it at. I think he's at 4. He might be at 3. His sleeves are actually pretty hard to tell. And I think Josh is just deciding here if he wants to put power on the booster behind Expeculate. He gets the a draw trigger, so does Rick. I'm at this point surprised he still has triggers in deck. He's been getting pretty damn lucky. And he does get to ride the Blaster Blade, coming out at 35 with 2 criticals right now. And he is forced to put 2 cards in from his hand into soul. That's the cost. He does get to attack here for 35, I believe. Rick is already at 23. Not too hard to make sure the attack no passes, because he is only getting the one drive check because he is at grade 2. So we see the perfect guard coming out on what is a relatively low attack, which is surprising. Josh getting another heal here. I think that's the 5th heal of the game between the both of them, which is pretty fucking ridiculous. And that rearguard blaster blade's going up to 30 by itself. So he is thankfully getting to hit. It is only a 10k to block, and then a 28. So again, a 10k for Rick to block. But with so little cards in his hand, I actually, from just peeking at his hand, I don't even think he has enough to block. I think he's just forced to take this, unless he wants to perfect guard it for some reason. Oh, he does end up perfect guarding it. I mean, at this point, Rick is so behind that I don't see much chance of him winning. Not quite sure what he's thinking about too hard. He's banking on top decking the Himiko, so I might have even kept that grade 1, because you know the only way you win is you tech deck the Himiko, so you keep the the grade 2, I'm sorry. So you keep the grade 2 to reduce the cost of Himiko. He does end up seeing it here, but I'm not entirely too sure how far that's gonna get him. I'm pretty sure his deck's pretty dry. I'm pretty certain he's almost decking out at this point. I can't see how many cards are left in his deck, but I do remember it being very low. I think he puts back the draw here, or I guess we're gonna find out. No, he puts back the crit, which makes sense because Josh is at 4, so you need one of the crits to go through to stop him. Yeah, you can see that was actually Rick's deck, so he only has less than 10 cards left. Yeah, Josh is here just counting the triggers, seeing how many are left. I really don't think he has any left at this point, except for like the one he put back at the bottom. Because yeah, you could see that he's really been through a lot of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's from what I can see, a draw and damage. He might actually have a couple left. So that's 10. I think there's 2 healers in there, so 12. 13 with the one on the bottom, so 3 cards in deck are triggers, which actually isn't too crazy or isn't too bad. Like, that is a significant amount for how little cards he has left in deck. Now we see Josh, who I think is also has a ever shrinking hand at this point. I'm not entirely sure how many cards he has left. Oh, he's got a couple. I think, yeah, it's kind of hard to tell at this angle. Which sucks. I told them I tried to get them to play with their hands more flattened so we can see on the camera, but it's kind of hard to do that without having your opponent see your hand. So Josh is just deciding the most optimal way to block this. I think Himiko is 33 at this point, and the rear guard is 43, because I believe he put one 10,000 and one crit on Himiko, and then he put 2 on the rear guard. So here we're seeing, what is that, 50k guard, so 2 to pass. So let's see if Rick can find both of those triggers, because I believe we know Josh has a perfect guard in hand at this point, so he really needs it at this point. Oh, Josh puts it to 60k, so No. I think it's still 2 to pass at that point. And Josh, perfect. Oh, no, he actually doesn't. I think he can save that. I'm not quite sure if he still has the perfect guards, but looks like he had just enough to block. Hopefully he has a grade 3 here. And we see the Alfred coming out. Although Josh goes to do it again. He kept complaining that he had to play with his deck on the other side because he wasn't used to it. So he kept grabbing his deck for the force markers, and Rick no guards it and doesn't get the heal, so he ends up losing, which is kind of upsetting, kind of not, because that was really an underdog game. He really stayed in it for quite some time and was able to survive and almost mount a comeback. If he was lucky with the last two, who knows, he might have actually won it. But thanks for stopping by. We actually didn't get the rest of their match. The camera ended up filling up on space, and this video is already long enough without the second one. So thanks for watching, guys. It's been Nico with Everyday Gaming. Like, comment, and subscribe, and check out the rest of our content on here, guys.